Welcome to the Top 20 Chiptune Video Game Music Show. That's our theme this week, chiptunes. That would mean songs made on the older style video game consoles, stuff that is not recorded audio that was played on a CD or digitally, stuff that was made using synth chips, your Game Boy, NES, Sega Genesis, Super Nintendo, FM98. And it's relaxing, wholesome is actually the theme we landed on. Thanks to the contributors like Rudi, chiptunebrony, cyflan, Kris, Claudio. If you'd like to be part of this, you can as well. If you're watching this and thinking it's going to be like a BuzzFeed type top 20, here's this one, here's that one, this is what we really think is the best. It's not like that, and I'll tell you why. Because when we did a redo of our Sonic picks, we had a Sonic top 20 pick. All these comments hated it. When I asked those commenters to submit their own picks, the caveat is that when I said it has to be, just give me 3. And it made them all think, well, if I'm only going to pick 3, then I'll probably pick some that are a little bit under the radar. And that's the difference. If we were all just picking the actual top ones, the best ones, it wouldn't be as interesting. These are like the 3 ones that each person is bringing to the table, almost to kind of showcase their personality. So that's why it might not be containing the ones that you would like or that you would expect if I say and you hear top 20. All right, let's go. So, our first official track of the day, by the way, that last one was from a game in Japan called Tantei Jinguuji Saburou Toki no Sugiyuku Mama ni. And all I could find about that song was that it was track 1. So, this next one is going to be from The Legend of Heroes 3, released on the PC-98 in 1994. It's called In the Sparkle of Love. And it's composed by Masaru Nakajima, and it was chosen by Rudi. Thanks, Rudi. Cheeky little slowdown there at the end. That's a nice track. Man, I'm really excited. When I first heard, our first idea for this week was going to be relaxing SNES JRPG music, which I was going to be all about. Super Nintendo has like a really kind of cozy style because of the compressed samples and their chiptune and or their sound chip. And then it got evolved into, okay, well, chiptune and then maybe relaxing, wholesome. But this kind of stuff with, and actually what I was a little bit worried about was when I hear chiptune, I think of kind of like NES or Sega Genesis and harder, colder sounds. But there are, like the PC-98, it's a really nice, warm, lush sounds to it, like we're hearing here. This is a really, really beautiful track. I mean, there's so much put in here. They're really taking advantage of what they could do with that expanded sound chip that the PC-98 had. And I mean, you can just like feel the composers kind of stretching out and really taking advantage of all those different sounds. Whereas, like, if you're on the NES or something, you've got 3 sounds, you know, that you can do at one time, and that's about it. And you really have to make those count, and you have to make them. You can't really have stuff that's just there to kind of add to the mood. Everything needs to be leading it and telling you what chord it's supposed to be. Whereas this is just. It's like so cheesy, but so nice. And if you were just grinding in like some crazy dark RPG dungeon and it was a maze and then there was like a boss, and then because it's a game from the 90s, maybe they make you walk all the way out of the dungeon too, fighting people on the way, and you're like, ugh, what a sludge. And then you just like get to a nice part in the game and you go, yeah, this is cool. I've earned this. Yeah. Well, it's called In the Sparkle of Love, so even though it could be like a great town theme or something, or like in a pub, or maybe like meet the character for the first time, and maybe like a love interest for the first time. I don't know, like take a look at these babes on the front cover. Don't you just love this animation style? It's like mid-90s anime. I just find I love the technical style of it, the way they draw it, the colors. I mean, it was just so high-end. It looked like it was, you know, from like a big budget, huge movie or something. It's just so gorgeous. And then I love the style too, with the white background and the light. I don't know what you call that. Pinstriping, line, the light line. Let's just say line. Kind of looks like a really cool album cover, right? Yeah. So I did put this track first, even though chiptunebrony had submitted his earlier, because this is more of like a warmer, softer sound, and I really appreciated that Rudi had put in -Rudi by the title of his thing, so I could just copy and paste it, and I didn't have to type Rudi, which is great when I'm in a bit of a rush. So this next track is chosen by chiptunebrony, a newcomer to our show, who's a big chiptune guy and quite a leader. Has been making the first suggestions, which is always nice. I think we're a bunch of polite people, and sometimes you need a person to make the suggestion. Anyway, this is from a game that apparently was really ahead of its time. It's called Sweet Home. It was released on the NES in 1989. This is the Fresco theme, composed by Junko Tamiya, and the game was published by Capcom. All right, let's check out Fresco's theme. So yeah, this is quite a somber song. I mean, it has a wholesomeness in a way, in that it like feels a bit sad, like something bad has happened, but it's kind of it's addressing you in kind of a sweet way. It does work very well. It works really well in a loop. That's a good point, Rudi, because this sounds like it's quite a short track, but it doesn't feel like annoyingly repeated at all. I love those like nice sustain notes in the background with the other little notes kind of hitting on top of it. And they've chosen to just use some pretty similar notes and voices, almost to create more like a solo instrument is playing this, like maybe like a harp or like a single guitar would be playing it, or like a choir in a way. It has kind of like a haunting sound to it, but it is kind of bright. Maybe it's like just the sound of it gives it like a bright kind of positive feel. Nostalgic with melancholy. It's a really nice track. And apparently this game was, like people were saying in the chat, was sort of like this survival horror RPG that was just so ahead of its time. Looks really interesting. Next up, from Lufia II, released on the SNES in 1995. This is Peace of Mind, composed by Yasunori Shiono, chosen by Cyflan, who said he wasn't going to be here, but he's here. Wow. Yeah, that does have a inspiring hope and optimism, but I like Rudy's line there, like things happen and life moves on. It kind of has the way that you kind of have these guitar things kind of going blah, 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 blah. It's sort of like pushing things aside. The song is not in a hurry, but it does have kind of a finality to it, as if what it's saying is definitely true and inarguable, but is not trying to hit you over the head with it. It's kind of like, it's almost like delivering bad news in a way, like Rudy said, where it's like, well, that's the way it goes. You stepped on your dog, and your dog doesn't have a face. But you can't fix that. No, a dog's face you can't replace. Oh no. Sounds like Can You Feel the Love Tonight? Yeah, I hear that. I love that Super Nintendo, it's like a fretless bass. And just all those nice, cozy, warm, comfy Super Nintendo sounds are so beautiful. And the sound just matched, of the Super Nintendo, matched the like big, bright, cozy pixel art too. It was like they had enough pixels to get rid of the jaggedness of the NES and even sort of the Genesis, and there's so many colors that you could just really fill it out. So beautiful. And kind of nostalgic and warm in a way. It was like an end of this era. Like, they continued doing some sprite stuff and 2D work on the next generation of systems, the PlayStation and Saturn, but it was never quite like this again. Next up, for talking about chiptune and wholesome, we're going to have a track from Earthbound. This is Sunrise and Onett theme, composed by Keiichi Suzuki and Hirokazu Tanaka, chosen by Kris. Oof. Nice. Oh my god. That opening with that really farty and just leaning in to how farty that bass is with a really short attack on it where it just the short tail, the short decay, like that the bass note hits and it's just over. It just sounds like something fat and squat kind of plodding around, like waddling. And then you've got those nice kind of like just percussion. You've got that too, the snare drum there. It almost sounds like a block hitting the ground. It just sounds so homemade and so quirky. It just fits this weird, wacky universe of Earthbound and all the creepy, in a fun way, characters. Just beautiful. And then you get this like really nice kind of like jazz ascending bass line as it goes through. So you have that. There's like a lot of great musicality behind what is trying to make something sound extremely simple and cutesy. All right, let's bring the fidelity down. That's right, I know that word. This track is from Donkey Kong Land, released on the Game Boy in 1995. The track is Submerged Ruins. It is from the incredible David Wise, chosen by Claudio, who got his picks in like 10 or 20 minutes when he realized we were doing the stream today. So bravo to you, Claudio. Let's see what David Wise can do on a Game Boy. Man, that is really nice. And that's with like a pretty simplified, pretty simple sound font, you know, like the tools at his disposal as compared to what he was working with on the Super Nintendo. And he still has managed to create that incredible David Wise sound. And somebody had mentioned they love the underwater themes. Claudio. So dreamy. There's usually the two main ways to add like depth or ambiance to the notes that you're playing are either reverb or delay. Now, reverb is used a lot in music, even almost, God, there's like hardly anything that will have no amount of reverb. And reverb is the sound of, when you make a sound, the sound of it reflecting off different surfaces. So if you're in a bathroom and it's got a lot of hard surfaces, you're going to hear that reverb. If you're in like a big, huge church or something, you're going to hear it reflect off faraway surfaces that are loud, and it's going to sound like a bigger room or a smaller room. I don't even know if you can do reverb on like the NES and the Game Boy, but they almost always use delay. So delay is where you have the note repeat. And just that little addition of it, even though it's just being played twice, maybe at like a slightly lower volume, creates this ambience of it, and it gives you that floaty kind of feel, which feels like you're underwater, feels like there's bubbles all around you, and feels like you're looking at a pufferfish or a suckerfish, and you're thinking, should I? So our newest member of the team here, chiptunebrony, you may think that he likes chiptunes. I'm assuming he is a bro. And he does. And how about this track that he brought to our attention? This is from Sonic the Hedgehog 2, released on the Sega Genesis in 1991. But it is a unreleased song that I think is from like the beta, or just maybe a hidden zone or something they didn't put in maybe the final copy of the game or maybe earlier copy of the game. I don't know the history of it. We'll have to ask chiptunebrony. But this song is called Hidden Palace Zone, and it's an area that you can reach from Mystic Cave. Let's check it out. Hold on, we have a YouTube comment. You know this is not the original version, or the original song for Sonic 2's Hidden Palace, right? It's on Simon Y, or a beta, which was never released, and is originally heard in the code 199211124. But the boss for this was a nice addition. That's it! I don't quite understand that comment. No, this is a YouTube comment on the gameplay video from Tube Rifle. Beautiful track. It's interesting. It's in a 3/4 time signature, and they give it this weird weight because they have the bass almost always starting on the 3 and going into the 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, which gives it this feel like you're trying to walk forward 3 steps and then a rubber band is snapping you back. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And then the snare beats are in these like really odd spots. Boom. They're on the upbeat. 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, kaka, 1, 2, and kaka. Almost like a reggaeton, where you put that drum beat from like poof, tsipoo, tsipoo. It's really weird. I don't know if this could be Tails' theme. It does. I mean, maybe if Tails was like seemed dumb on the surface, but in his mind was a deep well of philosophical musings, then this could be Tails' track. But like he's not able to get it. Like maybe Tails had a stroke, and in his mind he sees the universe, but his face is blank as Sonic keeps killing him over and over again. And he comes back and he says, every time I die, Sonic, I see the universe. I see God. I am granted infinite knowledge from these infinite deaths you've led me to. And the crime is that I cannot communicate them to help anyone. This is my sin. This is my punishment. This is my fate. I am Tails. Our next selection is from Time Tracks. There it is. Released on the Mega Drive and the Genesis. The track is cancelled. No, it isn't. Time Tracks was cancelled for the Sega Genesis. This track is Briefing, and it was composed by the great Tim Fallon, who did Silver Surfer and some other amazing stuff on the NES. This game was released on the Super Nintendo. One of the YouTube comments had said, what's really cool about this track is Fallon's use of the FM's ability to create perfect fifths with its overtones. Most of the chords are built with ninths, and by pairing the third and the seventh. So in a chord, all right. All right. So in a chord, let's hear it. Can we hear this? You've got your 1, your 5th. So 1 and a 5 together is a power chord. That's a 1 again. You got your 3rd and your 7th. Yeah. Here's your 3rd and your 7th. So he's using chords that use the 3rd and the 7th, which are a 5th apart, along with the 5th, and he does the 9th. So the overtones are the extra sounds that are created when two notes are played together. So because there's only so many sounds you can use, he's choosing, instead of playing, you can't play all the notes in a chord. He just has to go like this. And he's using that to create more sound. So let's have a listen to it. Oh. You could add that to your personal collection. You can listen to that forever. You know what's so cool about this is I love in the beginning where he starts off in the build-up. It sounds like it's going to be really funky, like the track becomes. Then the second part, he doesn't have the kick drum in it, so you just hear the tch, 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 which gives it a more kind of straight ahead, like quicker feel, which kind of sets you off guard. And then the funk lays in. Let's listen to that. It's like there's not even swung there, it's just straight. And then he lets it funk. And this is a nice long track without any loops. Close at 3 minutes and 57 seconds. An incredible track. Obviously, the guy can shred. He can do amazing things. But he also understands what you can... He understood almost more than anybody how to draw things out of hardware. Like, he famously, on the NES, he realized that you couldn't have a kick drum sound and a bass drum sound at the same time. So he would have the bass going really, really fast, and then every time it was supposed to kick, he would just bring the bass drum and bring it way down, and it would like simulate a kick drum sound, which is really similar to how like a lot of pop music is made now, with that 808s kick drum sound, where it's actually a kick drum that is given like a musical note to it, and they use that as the bass. But it's just a drum with a note. It's amazing. Olive's liking it. You dancing? Are you dancing? Are you dancing? Oh yeah. You're dancing. She's dancing. Oh yeah. That was amazing. What a treat. What a treat. That's another surprise. I didn't think we would hear, think we'd hear some Tim Follin on today's show. Really nice. Are you a Pokemon fan? This next one is from Pokemon's Gold or Silver or Crystal on the Game Boy Color in 1999. This is Gold in Rod City, composed by Junichi Masuda, Go Ichinose, and Morikazu Aoki, chosen by Cyflan. Oh. Well, that's the end of that little loop. These tracks really catch me off guard because they're so short, but that's nice. You never beat it because your brother had a save in the game with some busted clones Pokemon, so you played only what you could before turning off. This is the city you go to chill out before gambling on your Pokebucks away at the casino. Well, what do you think of this? This track kind of washed over me without me really thinking about it. I was having fun with it. To me, it's got kind of like a real decadent sound to it. I could see... It almost would fit in like a casino-type city. What I like about it is that boom, 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 boom. It's got this real kind of sure-footedness about it. Boom, 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 boom. And the little, that really crunchy, crusty hi-hat sound. Yeah, it's kind of like a decadent, like a glamour to it. It's almost got that kind of like Baroque sound to it. Like you're playing on a harpsichord. Like really sort of that bright kind of classical style, that bright period of classical, like I guess like Mozart time period, maybe Chopin, when they played on the harpsichord instead of the piano. It had no sustain. I'll take this Pokemon and this one, and I'll breed them together to make them in my own image, for I am God. Some fans are demanding a crossover of Pokemon and Digimon. They've taken the president's hostage. They've cut off 2 of his fingers. They say they're going to keep going. Make it happen. Either we get Pokemon Digimon, or this guy loses his digits. From Final Fantasy III, this is The Cave Where the Crystal Lies, composed by the Godfather, Nobuo Uematsu. Chosen by our Godfather, Kris. This isn't a chiptune. The original game was a chiptune. This is the arrangement of it. So this is performed by Music and the Black Mages. So, all right, we have a sense of that. So the original track on the original NES is called Alter Cave. Let's check it out. Here's the chiptune version of it. What the hell? You know, it's interesting. There we go. It's interesting because even though this is much simpler, this is played on the NES, I feel like the way that they did that bring, bring, actually has this kind of like intimate feel of somebody playing the instrument. I really feel like I can hear like a maestro guiding them along, or like a, first chair player really just standing up and just giving it to them, just being so orchestral. Which is funny because it's very simple. I mean, if you compare NES sound chip limited to what you can do compared to like a total classical, reorganization and remaster of it. It's funny that so much of that still comes through. Would you agree? Olive likes seeing herself in the camera, don't you? It's really good. The only part I don't like about it is the. You hear me, Olive? I don't like that part. But it's really beautiful. I hope you like Pokemon, because we got another Pokemon track again from Gold and Silver, released on the Game Boy in 1999. This is National Park, composed by Junichi Masuda, Go Ichinose, and Morikazu Aoki, chosen by Claudio. man, this probably one of my favorite tracks of the week. That opening melody line, the main melody line there is so bloody gorgeous and so like wistful and kind of melancholy and so sad and so strong. I like the way the bass kind of slows down there too. Ugh, it just dedicates every musical element around there to supporting that melodic phrase. And then it just gets down and dirty and lets you dance a little. That's so cool. Like Rudy says, unexpected. Alright, so next up from Final Fantasy Adventure, released on the Game Boy in 1991, we've got Mana's Mission. This is composed by Kenji Ito, and it was chosen by chiptunebrony. Uh-oh. This is really, really beautiful. I mean, wholesome, relaxing. It definitely has like a weight, like somebody is telling you about some insane mission you're going to have to do. You're going to have to complete something like... It's like the weight of the world is being put onto your shoulders, and you're going to have to deal with it. It's quite amazing. Oh, one second. Stella's here. Yeah, really, really gorgeous track. I love that it's just like the confidence it has. It's not in any kind of a rush. And that the way that melody line kind of leads the rest of the chords. And just the like simple kind of plodding notes in the background that are picking up the different chords. One of my favorites of the week for sure. Really beautiful, really melancholy. But there's like kind of like a wisdom behind it. You know what I mean? Simply gorgeous. Our next track is from the game Terranigma, released on the Super Nintendo in 1995 and 1996. This track is Krista, composed by Miyoko Kobayashi and chosen by Rudi. Ooh. crunchy. This has... I find that, okay, so that leading, that melody there is done with, to me, what sounds like an instrument that is being pitched way down. It's almost like somebody took like a flute sound and like went way down, or like a feminine voice and went way deeper, which gives it like a, maybe like a sadder sort of, slower, more thoughtful. It just gives it like a different quality too. It's like, I am sounding like this. Oh. It gives it a thickness, and it's just like a different kind of quality. But, you know, when I thought we were going to be doing potentially Super Nintendo relaxing JRPG music, I mean, this is what I thought we were going to be listening to all day. We ended up with more variety, which I think is nice in this way of doing it, but you can't beat a good JRPG town theme, and on the Super Nintendo they just sound so at home. This one they like really, I don't know if just like the acoustic guitar they sampled on this is so compressed and so slow, where they made it extra sort of crunchy and crispy. It almost floats between trying to sound like an acoustic or a harpsichord again. How many times am I going to say harpsichord? I'm not even getting sponsored by the Harpsichord Foundation. The HF. This, to me, sounds like maybe like a Nobuo Uematsu track in the yearningness of it. But it was made by Miyoko Kobayashi. Let's take a look at what Kobayashi has created. So get this. She worked on Terranigma, collaboratively, Sonic the Hedgehog 3, the Grand Stream Saga on the PS1, Atelier Judy. Alright, we got some more SNES JRPGs. This is our SNES JRPG section of the show. This is from Secret of Mana, put out in 1993. It's Color of the Summer Sky, chosen by cyflan. Yeah, I guess the drum samples, like at the time, those were probably very, very high quality. And I think that's why they wanted to just really highlight them. Because I find the drums now pretty obnoxious, especially with the background being this kind of like twinkling, lower fidelity, very Super Nintendo sounding sounds. And you got those drums. It sounds like somebody just learned their first drum beat. It's so loud, it doesn't sound like anything like the rest of the track. It does really give it that sort of like, get up and go. Like this is your sort of first town or first adventure, like first time leaving the town and a JRPG. Oh, this game was originally meant for the Super Nintendo CD, which was going to be a collaboration with Sony. And when they had a disagreement about it, Sony went on and, or I think, oh, you know what it was? It was going to be with Sony, and then I think at the last minute, Nintendo backed out and went with Philips, and then abandoned the concept of it. And then Sony left with the wreckage of all this CD hardware. And these ideas were like, well, we'll just make our own PlayStation, which has now totally taken away the market share from Nintendo. So take that. All right, enough Super Nintendo JRPGs. This is from Mega Bomberman. The track is Slammin' C, composed by Jun Chikuma and chosen by Kris. Ooh. Sounds like Mortal Kombat. Mortal Kombat. That's cool. There are a lot of different parts in this. I feel like so much of this is, it's like a lot of different riffs that are really unexpected, that are really, really creative. It really does go on a bit of a journey. I love all the, like, bleeps and bloops. It sounds so good. I know that that's usually a derisive term people use, like, oh, just bleeps and bloops. Chiptune, bleh. But the parts where it really does sound like bleeps and bloops just sounds like a computer making beautiful music, like a computer in this Bomberman world. I like how much this track changes. I mean, it goes from like really happy and upbeat and kind of like down tempo, and it's got such a high energy to it. Well, that one there, whatever instrument that is. Oof, how do you find that again? It's like maybe electric piano on the Super Nintendo. Kind of sounds like this is the same and it's the Rhodes piano. I don't know. It sounds like a robot made it. the way that they just like things are sort of assembled, and we're gonna put this here and put this here and then put that there. This is the most kind of like organic sounding part of it, and it's just basically, I think it's used as like the turnaround. And then it goes to this Eastern scale. Something Muse would do a big riff like this and then do an Eastern little breakdown. It's really nice. It really just creates this whole world. You don't really get tired of hearing it. It just sounds like the clockwork of something, you know, like you're looking at the inside of a clock and all these little different cogs and things working together. Even though I don't know what a Bomberman is. To me, like, is he just a regular guy who's dressing in a Bomberman outfit, or is he sort of like a little robot person? In this world, do they send robots out to do all the bombs, like drones? Or are they live creatures that potentially are destroyed by their own bombs? Maybe. Oh my god, this next track took me so long to find the gameplay for. It is from Final Fantasy III, released on the NES in 1990. This is Water World, composed by Nobuo Uematsu, chosen by Claudio. Man, that's a masterful use of the NES. Those nice long big runs, just like the way you can make the NES sounds some sort of like kind of wavy. I really love, like Chris is saying, those beeps and bloops, those lower notes that sound again like something that's normally high but lower. They sound really full. This is actually, you know, for an NES track, it has a lot of it's like warmth to it, you know? Sounds kind of warm and cozy. One thing Rudy notices, a lot of these tracks use arpeggios. That's true. They use a lot of arpeggio, and arpeggio is where you pick out all the notes in a chord. So instead of playing all at once, you go boop 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 bop boop bop boop 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 bop boop boop boop. And they do that because you can't play all the notes at the same time. So if you walk through them, then you'll hear all the notes eventually. And your mind will go, oh, that's the chord. Boom, 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 ba, da, da, da. So it's just a way of showing people the chord, giving people as much musical information when you can only do one note at a time. This is a really common technique in this chiptune era. And like this one doesn't even have drums because they're using every sound available, right? Just to... Because, I mean, here it sounds like there's so much more going on. It's just two instruments. And just that beautiful melody with like a bit of a wave, or just to give it some like depth. Really amazing. This next one is from Earthbound Beginnings, released on the NES in 1989, also known as Mother. This is 8 melodies composed by Keiichi Suzuki, Hirokazu Tanaka, and chosen by Chiptune Brony. real kind of creepiness behind it too, because there's like it's like the same stuff is being played or something else kind of being played, but at a much lower volume with a lot of delay kind of underneath it. And if I had to guess, I think this is like, well, you can see from this video, it's like you're collecting these different melodies from all around the world and then bringing them together. Every time I read something about Earthbound or Mother, it always reminds me so much of Undertale, you know? Like how much Undertale took a like direct inspiration from it. It does have a really sad and thoughtful place to it. It's sort of like a lullaby in a way. The way that it's just like mostly a single voice. I love the sound they get from it. It's, again, with that NES kind of like, that sort of like fluctuation to it, that wavering. It's really beautiful. It's a very thoughtful piece. I like how it seems like usually in the last note of the phrase will hang for a long time. You could almost hear this at like a funeral or something. In a way, it kind of sounds like the last song you're ever going to hear. But moving on, we have plenty more. Next up, from River City Girl 0, also known as Shin Neketsu Koha Kunio Tachi no Banka, released in 1994 and 2021 from on the SFC and everywhere. Composed by Kazunaka Yamane or Hitoshi Yamane. One of the Yamanes. Chosen by Rudi. A banger, eh? Alright, let's give it a listen. Hey there, Matt. Super Gamecast Matt. Man, this is nice. You know, I was talking about how you almost always hear delay instead of reverb in chiptunes, and this is one of the few that has reverb. You can hear it on the drums. I love that, where it goes from that, like the tension they're setting with this opening bit. It's like real straightforward with some like slapped bass and just some like really kind of funky, expressive rhythm guitar, like chords and that cool kind of, to me it sounds like an electric guitar. And that cool slap bass. So much going on. And then it just like sits there for so long, and then it's finally let you go. And then when it hops up to that next key, then they unleash the drums and they give it a dance beat. And the bass is allowed to go and be a little more like straight ahead and just really run for it. Nice. Some nice shredding. Well, we're coming near the end. It's time for old Rusty to appear Released in the PC 98 in 1993, this is the Graveyard Overworld, and it was chosen by Cyflan. This has got oh, I guess it was a second piece of it. Yeah, it's got a real sort of a sad feel to it. It's got, to me, it's got like a spooky kind of Halloween-y feel to it. The way that they like to add that vibrato. It actually kind of reminds me of the four, calling the four giants, Oath to Order and Majora's Mask. The setup, anyway. And it goes to a different place. It's a lot of setup, but it's an overall track, so. You really hear some drums getting added to this. It's gonna be like a nice long Pink Floyd track. Especially with those notes going down and that. One of my favorite pieces of all time, video game music, the Majora's Mask, Oath to Order track. That's a really nice change that it goes to. Just a real kind of like redemption arc. Ooh, tricky chord at the end. Ooh, come around and slap you in the face with that whip. Is this a real game? What is this, Cyflan? What is going on? Was this made by Konami? Was this just... No, obviously this is not made by Konami. This was made by somebody who thought, hey, Konami made money off Castlevania. What if the character had a whip? Was a hot chicken leather with heels. Japanese gaming. Moving along... This one is from RuneScape. That's right, old school RuneScape, chosen by Kris, composed by Ian Taylor. This is Spirit. That's a really nice track. It's got that kind of like PC MIDI Sound Blaster drums, but a lot of the original, the opening arpeggio stuff kind of sounds like it could be right on Final Fantasy VII. It's not as polished as that, of course, but it has a really nice charm, and it's actually really, really nicely written. I was surprised. I don't know much about RuneScape other than it being this old RPG I guess you could play online or for free or something, like on a PC. And it was like a lot of people's first MMO, spent a lot of time with. And I just thought of it as this like janky thing that was free. So I thought the music would be as janky. And although it's not the highest quality instruments for a lot of stuff, it's written really, really well. Whew. So epic. I kind of wish we just would have ended the stream on this track, but we have one more to go. So we'll consider the last one as a bonus. This is the end, because this is so good. But our bonus final track, chosen by Claudio, from Metal Gear Ghost Babel, released on the Game Boy in 2000. That's weird. This is the track called... This is the track that's called The Future, composed by Norihiko Hibino, Kazuki Muraoka. Beautiful track. That was actually a pretty nice one to end on as well. From the Game Boy Color. I find the Game Boy Color, it always has that that melody instrument that sounds very haunting. There you go. Found the right key eventually. I love that beat. It kind of gives it this like slow motion walking away feel. Snake walks away, says goodbye, only to fight another 30,000 more times. Played only a little bit. Quite the nice game. Can't say if it's better than Metal Gear Solid 2. You never know. Oh, can't say it's better than Metal Gear 2. Right. Solid Snake. That was a big jump, Metal Gear 2. It basically incorporated, even it looked like this was like really basic, it was like top down, but it had almost everything that they had in Metal Gear Solid, just two-dimensional. Well, that's it. If you'd like to be part of this show, and you're not already, find a link to our Discord. It should be in the description. If it's not, give us a comment, and I'll personally hand deliver the link to you to copy and paste, or just click on and join. And you can choose not only songs for each episode, but the themes for each episode too. Who knows what next week's theme will be? Thanks to everybody for contributing. Thank you for being flexible with now doing the show with a baby sometimes. But I think all have enjoyed the music. And I'm out of here. I'll see you guys on Discord. Thank you so much. Bye. Bye.